Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Speakeasy Project. I'm Jeremy. It is good to see everybody today. I am glad that we are getting to spend a few minutes together. Happy Sunday. Another week down. What did everyone else have? What did everyone else have going on this week? Yeah. I read a quote yesterday. That I don't know how I feel about. It was like, what did it say? Oh, the only help anybody else will give you is when they lower your box 6 feet up into the ground or something like that. And I was like, oh my God. Listen, I understand that there's like some legitimacy to, uh, kind of, um, I just realized the good mic's not plugged in. We're getting some sketchy audio at this point, I'm sure. Um, I realize that there's some validity to, like, kind of figuring out how to do things for yourself and understanding that, a lot of times there's not other people to trust or whatever the case is. But that one feels pretty morbid, if we're being honest here. Like that one feels like a lot. Like, I don't know if I believe that exactly. So, okay, we're gonna make an audio switch. Oh, I think it just did it. Let's see. No. There we go. All right. That should be better. Yeah, it's a bit dark. Yeah, I agree. I agree. A bit dark, to be sure. Um, the thing that drives me crazy when you watch a podcast or whatever, and they have like Shure mics like this, and they're like holding the barrel doing this thing. That drives me nuts. Hmm, should be good. I'm getting audio on both ends. Should be okay. It should be okay. Um, so yeah, that drives me nuts when they're like holding the barrel of the microphone. And if Allison is still on here, I'm sure she would concur. Um, please put that thing. Please put that thing on a mic stand. Oh yeah, like yeah. A lot of people have that problem with like there's a Yeti microphone, like the Yeti Blue or whatever. And it's got different settings on it. It can be omnidirectional, or it can. It had some cool settings on it. It was like omnidirectional, bidirectional, or um, unidirectional, whatever. But like a lot of times people would set it unidirectional and talk in the wrong side of it. Which, you know, and you just sound like you're in a tin can. But yeah, this thing where they're like holding SM7s or whatever, like by the barrel, like I don't love that. Yes, and it not only is it commonly used backwards, but it is common because it is affordable and it is a decent audio upgrade, like for break-in podcasters or whatever. I had one for a while. I enjoyed it, but also, if you don't know how the equipment works, you're not really helping yourself. So, um, scream! I scrumped. Oh man. But anyway, I digress. Um, yeah, I just when I read that quote yesterday, I was like, I don't know. I mean, I get it. Like, I get you kind of have to like, yeah, like I appreciate quotes where it's like, if you won't advocate for yourself, no one will, right? Um, and that is, I think that one's really true because if you don't say, "Hey, I need help," or "Hey, I've got like things going on, can you please whatever," um, people don't know you need help, and people don't know you need help if you're not advocating. So you got to say something. Can't just sit there. Um, so I feel that one for sure. But that the one about like the only help you're ever gonna get is like when people lower your box into the ground. Like that feels a little like a bridge too far, you know. Um, like I still think there's some decent humanity, right? Like I don't know. But then again, you know, I don't know. What I guess what kind of shocks me a little bit is I really wish when there were things happening in the world, like people would just put down their cell phone. Like, stop recording everything. We don't need to. It's fine. Like, I understand you're trying to catch the dopest footage, but like, why? Or like car crashes and burning things, and like, go find out if somebody needs help. Do that first. Then if it's like all clear and everybody's safe and whatever, yeah, sure. Just get the best content that you can get. But like, chill out, like for real. Like, calm down. We got to stop recording everything all the time as we record this on YouTube. Yeah. But seriously, or like fights and things like that. God, these kids at school, man, stop. You were making this worse. Anywho, um, all right. We're gonna be in Luke chapter 14 again today. We're gonna be in verse 25. Luke chapter 14, verse 25. That feels like my next TikTok content. Stop recording everything. By the way, making a little content again. Back on the saddle. I did a live the other night. How about that? That was fun. Hadn't done that in a hot minute. TBH. But the people that I've had the chance to reconnect with in that has been really fun. So I've gotten all sorts of texts and calls, and which has been great. What's up, Jeffrey? Yeah, don't lift the screen. I tell my oldest that all the time. Experience life, don't just watch it. Yeah, and you know what, Rick? I bet you find yourself in this too, because as somebody who like marketing and content and those kinds of things background, like tons of digital, and then you as obviously somebody who's like tech technology and technical industry stuff like and being a solution for fixing problems with all of that. Like, I'm sure you find yourself this way a lot. It's why I quit wearing an Apple Watch, which sounds crazy, right? Like, I love good tech and love good Apple tech, right? Um, but it's why I quit wearing an Apple Watch, because I'm tired of my entire world buzzing every time my phone goes off, right? I turned off notifications for 90% of my apps at this point. Like, if I think of it and need something from that, then I will go on it. But otherwise, probably don't need to just randomly hear from you throughout the day, talking about like Lowe's and Home Depot and I don't know, Dick's Sporting Goods. Like, I mean, just all this random crap that was just constantly flooding the notification deal. And and then I feel like it just people. I intentionally just will not pick up my phone for like chunks of time because I don't want to. Like, and people feel some type of way about that. And I, I don't know, man. Like, it's just, it's like the last concert I went to. I took maybe like 2 videos, 3 videos. Um, but like all of my favorite parts of that live here. And you know what? Maybe someday I'll lose my brain and it's not going to matter anyway. Right. Like, I'm not going to wake up every morning and be like, who am I? And they're going to be like, well, you went to this Mumford and Sons concert one time. And who cares? Like, I just enjoyed it for what it was. Right. And I think we need to be a little bit more intentional with that. Um, yeah, just I don't know. It just made me feel like I was just I felt I felt like I was just physically connecting to my phone all the time at that point, and I didn't love that. Plus, there's some really dope watches out there that are not an Apple Watch, so I've enjoyed that. Um, which I forgot to put a watch on before I got on this morning. Um, so now I feel naked. Striking balance with cool tech, privacy, and being a regular human. I like having the tech, but not the expanse of the human. Yeah, yeah. Not at the expense of the humanity. Sorry, I knew what you meant there. We're going to be in Luke chapter 14, verses 25 till probably the end of the chapter. So 25 through 36. Luke 14, 25 through 36 this morning. Not me just slowly going over here so that I don't feel naked anymore. All right. Yeah, Luke chapter 14, verses 25 through 36 is where we're going to be. We can dive in there. All right. Verse 25 says this. One day when large groups of people were walking along with him, Jesus turned to them and told them. Now, let me preface this a little bit. It's a very common passage. This is one that's pretty well known. It is also one that causes a lot of controversy because I think it is really misunderstood. So we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit and kind of explain a touch of what this means or where this is sort of coming from. But again, so Jesus, and this is one of those places where they finally started saying, like, there's a large crowd following Jesus. So, there's a bunch of people. Okay. We imagine this number is probably well within the thousands, right? Could be as many as 8, 10, 15,000 people, right? Because of Jesus, again, if Jesus was feeding the 5,000 and that was just like Jewish men was literally all that was counted in that historically, we can imagine, spouses and children and like all of those things. So, 10, 15,000 in that. So when scripture is saying a large crowd, you would imagine that's a pretty big number of people. So Jesus is just walking along here and he turns around and he goes with this. You can imagine what led to this moment. You can imagine that at some point he was like, I got to tell them some stuff, right? And because I can almost guarantee, now I can almost guarantee that Jesus would have these moments where he'd just be like walking along, the crowd be following him, everybody just kind of be chill and hanging out and like, just kind of moving to the next city or whatever. And here's Jesus and he's just, kind of thinking in his brain. And he like, he'll just kind of be like going through some things and thinking about stuff. And then all of a sudden he's like, I gotta tell them some stuff. like, and it's gotta be out of like some sort of frustration, right? Because I would imagine he probably gets to these points where he's like, y'all are driving me nuts. I'm about to tell y'all some things. you're going to learn today, right? And I think it was just out of correction, right? I think that was probably the biggest thing here, was Jesus was just trying to recalibrate the way they thought about the world and the way that they saw the things happening around them. And so it's really important uh, to kind of put all of that into context, if you will, as we think about um, Jesus having this conversation. Okay. So I imagine this is one of those moments where Jesus just wheels around and is like, hey, by the way, um, so large crowd following Jesus. Jesus turns around and he told them, anyone who comes to me but refuses to let go of father and mother, spouse, children, brothers, sisters, yes, even one's own self, can't be my disciple. Anyone who won't shoulder his own cross and follow behind me, cannot be my disciples. Imagine you're just walking along with Jesus and he turns around and spews this out. Contextually, also, not only was family a lot more culturally relevant in this setting, so to say, you are going to leave your family, your mom, your dad, your spouse, your kids, you're going to walk away from all of it to follow me. That's saying something that culturally was like, whoa, 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 whoa. We don't abandon family here. But Jesus takes it a step further. He's like, you're going to leave everything you love and you're going to pick up your cross and follow me. Now, I mean, just because we understand the context of what the cross is through the crucifixion of Jesus, but historically, you also have to understand the context of what the cross is just in that time frame, that it is the most gruesome form of execution that has probably ever existed. Okay. The Roman government had created this form of execution and torture. And they had the corner market on the way to just absolutely humiliate, torture, and kill somebody. And to this day, probably nothing quite as intense. Because that is absolutely an insane way to treat someone. And so for Jesus to take something so disturbing and so dark and something connected directly with Roman rule and the way that they were executing people and things like that, government stuff, right? For Jesus to wheel around and be like, okay, number one, you need to leave your family, right? If you're going to follow me, you got to leave your father and mother, your kids, your spouse, you're going to leave it all. And by the way, also, if you're going to follow me, you will take up your cross and follow me. I can imagine there's a lot of confusion that comes with that. Probably some frustration. I would imagine that there was a lot of people who heard that and they were like, you know what? Actually, we should have never been here, right? We don't belong here. I think Jesus did these kinds of things on purpose. Number one, because I think what he was saying really is true, and we'll get to that in a minute. Maybe not in a literal sense, but you also have to remember, put in context. We have the 30,000 feet, we have the the perspective of the entire work of the Gospels, right? Like, so we understand what kind of teacher and storyteller and engager like Jesus was. So we kind of have the perspective to go, Jesus used a lot of parables, told, taught things in a lot of stories, so on and so forth. We understand that. These people are living it in real time. And Jesus wheels around and is like, yeah, carry this instrument of execution to follow me and leave everybody you love, right? I think that Jesus, just thinking about it like that, like if you put yourself in the shoes of somebody that was there without the historical, without the biblical, without the, without any of the context other than just the cultural, like I'm in this moment, right? And you probably walked away from some things that were really important to you to kind of follow this guy around for a while, maybe for a few days or a few weeks, or like maybe you had been there for a hot minute, like, but you're like, maybe you grabbed your family and y'all were just following him around to listen to him teach. Like, we want to hear from this rabbi. We want to hear from this guy who has all this knowledge and this wisdom. And so maybe you kind of laid some things aside to follow this guy around. You're putting in context and you're like, this dude is crazy. Like, you've seen him heal the sick and the hurting and the broken, and you've seen him do some really great things and, feed people. And he gives the Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the, the peacemakers, blessed are those who mourn. You hear all of these things and you're like, yeah, this guy, he gets it. He pushes back against the religious establishment that has been so hard on me and my family. And, we really feel like we can see the face of God now. We really feel like we can attain the community with God now. And then he wheels around and says this. And you have no other context. None. Like, yeah, he's done some cool stuff, but like also now he's telling you, leave everything behind, take up this instrument of execution and torture, and that is how you follow me. At that point, you're like, you know what? I messed up. I should not be here, right? Like, I think yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. And could you imagine, like, maybe you had just heard Jesus like in this last town and you're like, maybe I'll follow this guy around for a little bit and see what it's about. Yeah. Tough way to find out. So to put yourself in those shoes and to hear that, you're like, this dude's insane. What in the world is he talking about? Get it. We can look at this passage. We can look at this passage now and still feel that way if we take it out of context and we don't understand. There were times that Jesus said things like, if you want to be my disciples, you'll eat my flesh and drink my blood, right? Not literal, not what he was saying, but they didn't know any better, right? And they were like, what the? It's just like, you can imagine the murmurs that are happening here. There's an intention with this, though. There's a point. Jesus would say things that were pretty radical on purpose. And for two reasons, I think. Number one, to show you figuratively what the sacrifice is. And we'll get why that sacrifice is important here in a minute. But on the other side, I think it was to just kind of divide out those who really wanted to be there and learn. There were times, like in a classroom setting, I would say, and I still do this in meetings and emails now, I will say something random, off the wall, or crazy, just to see if people are listening, and if they'll ask. I will drop in something random, off the wall, crazy, something about something completely different. I'll drop those in an email or I'll say them in the context of a meeting, just mid paragraph about something else. And I want two things. I want number one, I want somebody to go, wait. What did you just say? Now I know you're watching, you're listening, you're paying attention. Okay. Secondly, I want you to ask what that means. Because I want you to show your curiosity, right? Yeah, what they do or don't know. That's exactly right. All the time. All the time. And you know what? I'm not even mad if you don't understand what I'm saying. But if you go, hey, tell me about that. Is that how does that fit into what we're talking about? Like I can see that genuine, like that clear, like they're trying to piece it together, right? And I appreciate that, right? Yeah, yeah. And then I ate a bear, and they're like, "Yeah, that's cool," you know. It's like, like, how was that? Oh yeah, cool. I did that too last week. um, but I love doing that because I like to know who's engaged, and I also like to know who's not afraid to ask a question. I also like to know who's not afraid to call it out and be like, "Hey, whoa, that doesn't have anything to do with what we were talking about, you know, or whatever." Because number one, now I know you're not afraid to like talk about things, and number two, you were listening, right? So, if anybody from any of the places that I do some leadership, um, they may know my secrets now, but I think Jesus would do this kind of stuff, and I think he would do it on purpose. I think probably at times he was kind of separating the wheat from the chaff a little bit, and he was saying, "Look, I'm going to say some crazy stuff just to kind of thin the herd, right? Like if people really want to be here and they really want to know what that means, they'll ask. They'll say, wait, what?" Or they'll be like, "Okay, well, tell us what you mean," right? Are they buying in, but not buying in blindly? Are they are they willing to have the hard conversations or the weird conversations? Are they willing to ask questions? Jesus loved questions. I mean, you know, again, we've talked about this before. The whole concept of a doubting Thomas, right? Jesus didn't ever ridicule Thomas. He called him over and asked him to touch his hands and his feet. I think there was a part of Jesus that appreciated Thomas kind of vetting those things out. I mean, there are places in scripture that say to test the spirits and make sure that they're good, right? Um, so I think there were times when Jesus would say these things. Number one, to just kind of divide out who was really following and listening and who was just kind of there as like a because it was like the cool thing to do or like it was social experiment for them. Like they just wanted to see what was going on, right? But also I think Jesus was he was teaching something through figurative language here. What he was really saying is, look, bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth, bringing God's love to earth is going to take some sacrifice. It's going to take some work. It's going to hurt. And I mean, there is no mistake why Jesus would at times talk about, you know, in this world you will have trouble. And they would call Jesus like a man of sorrow, right? Jesus was going through these really challenging seasons. And he faced some of the most difficult things. So I don't think it was any mistake that Jesus was like, look, bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth, bringing this love and this compassion and this grace to earth, it's going to take some work. Like, we're going to have to put in some effort, and it's going to suck. And I think that what Jesus is really saying here is he's saying, look, you are going to have to sacrifice things that, or it's going to feel like it costs you things that you never thought you would have to give up. And that's tough. That's hard. There are going to be times when you are just going to have to give everything you have. Because the work of bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth, the work of showing God's love to a broken world is hard. And they will hate you, and they will despise you. And so, look, if you're not willing to go to the cross, if you're not willing to walk away from everything if you have to, then you're really not willing to do the work. I find it really fascinating that what we see later on is Jesus had to carry his own cross. That was not normal. And so I think it was one of those moments where Jesus was saying that it's, these are the things that are going to have to happen, but he's also going to lead by example. Yeah, that part all day. That part all day. It reminds me of what is the George Washington line in Hamilton, right? Dying is easy, living is harder, right? um, I think that I think this is exactly true. And people put themselves in situations all the time where they're martyred for their faith when they really didn't have to be. I think about these things where people are like going into deep, dark indigenous tribes and and like putting themselves in like the highest level of risk for what? Because you don't believe that the love of God and the grace of God is good enough? That you don't believe that these people who had never heard the gospel the way we understand it in Western culture, like that God's love for them wasn't enough to have grace? Like, if you believe that you really believe that God is going to send them to hell, like eternal torture. And so what you do is you decide to take yourself into this place where it's like you don't belong. Oh, he gave his life for the Lord. No, he didn't. He was being stupid. And I'm sorry if that sounds crass, but like, don't be dumb. Okay? Like, do the hard work. Do the hard work. Change your, change the lives of your family. Change the lives of the people around you. Invest your love and your grace and your support in your system. Heaven, so heavenly minded, they're no earthly good. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, but that's so true. That's so true. But this is true across the board though, friends, because people are just they're dying for heaven. Like I mean, not to, no pun intended, but they are. It's like they are just desiring death and the rapture and like all of these crazy things. Like, have you ever thought that just like, yeah, life's going to suck and it's going to be challenging and it's going to be really hard, but bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth is some work. And Jesus sacrificed a lot. He sacrificed his existence, his family. He sacrificed his he sacrificed a good trade, right? Like the thing that we often don't think about is like, Jesus had a whole trade that he was taught how to do and could make money and have a family and do all of those things and have a successful existence or a good life, right? And Jesus walked away from all of it to just be homeless and poor and walk around and try to encourage people to see the face of God. That's a different kind of faith. That's a different kind of journey. And so I think what Jesus is really saying here, and we'll get on to the rest of this passage probably next week, but I think what Jesus is really saying here is he's saying, look, you to do the work, you're going to have to put in some sacrifice to really accomplish the goal, to bring love and kindness and grace and humility and compassion to earth the way that it is in the kingdom of heaven, the way it is in the heart of God, the way it is in the heart of the divine. You are going to have to sacrifice some things, and it is going to cost, and it is going to hurt. And I don't need you to hurt halfway around the world in some random place you've never been where you don't speak the language. I need you to hurt like in your neighborhood. I need you to hurt at your job. I need you to hurt with your friends and your family. I need you to bring it here. I put you where I put you for a reason. Go do it. Now, am I saying that I don't think? I mean, let me be clear. I think that there is some good work and humans out there that are doing incredible missions, but it is very different. Um, I think about my friends Doug and Darla in Mexico. Um, and they've been there for 30 years. They speak the language. They are now dual citizens. They go into Mayan villages and install stoves into huts so that they can have warmth and a safe place to cook, and they're not, allowing smoke to just fill up inside of a closed living community space with babies and all sorts of stuff, right? That's the kind of work, making the world a better place and staying, not going, staying. Um, and they'll never leave. I mean, they're just one with the community at this point. That's different. That's different. But these like short-term missions and you going and like trying to, give people the gospel and stop, quit, go next door, take your neighbor some eggs, T- you know, go buy a bag of burgers and go down to that corner where you're always complaining about, oh, those people out here begging. Why don't you go out there and take them some burgers or something? Like, goodness. Yeah, no, that's right. That is exactly right. That is exactly right. Um, No, that's 1,000% spot on. That's what it is. It's yeah, because instead of it being, yeah, instead of it being personal growth and fulfillment and enrichment, right? Um, and a challenge to love people better, it becomes, yeah, performative, um, and unhealthy. We've been there. When I was young, well, church. Yeah. Listen, I love that was so the reason that I mentioned my friends in Mexico is because the first time I ever went down there, I went with a group of pastors, and they were they were kind of looking for some more support for the things that they were doing, and they were really, it was right at the very beginning of this project where they were going to start installing these stoves that had been developed like in Switzerland somewhere by an engineer, and like it was for these kind of like third world kind of areas where they needed something more. Number one, it was more efficient. Like it used less wood because it was like it was filled with lava rock and it was concrete, and it'd ventilate the smoke out, and and then it had these like little cooktops, like resize or like adjustable cooktop sizes, which was all, it was very very cool, very cool. But I mean, it was going to be a heavy lift, right? Like financially, because they were just giving these away, and installing them for these people. Um, and so there was a group of pastors that were there, and he'd invited, through some connections, my pastor and I had gotten invited. And so we went down there, and he was wanting to kind of show everybody, like, what the stoves did and how they operated, and how it made an impact in the lives of these families, and like how it was making their lives more healthy and safer, and like all of this really important stuff, right? Like very important stuff. And I remember him saying, okay, look, we're going to go into these homes. You know, these folks are very, very hospitable. Um, they're going to be really kind to you, compassionate to you. They're going to offer you things, Um, he was like, but please, and this was crazy. This started like a riot. He said, but please do not share the gospel with them. Room full of conservative evangelical pastors. You would have thought somebody had told them that their dog had been murdered. Like it was insane. They were like, what? Why are we even here if we're not here to preach the gospel of the Lord? And it was like, he was like, listen to me. He's like, you need to understand, these people here are not American. They are very kind and they are very hospitable. And if you offer them something, no matter what it is, they will receive it. He was like, including your religion. And he said, and then they will just take it and they will ball it with all of the other religious things that they believe, and they'll just add it to the ball. He was like, you are going to harm the work I'm doing here if you do that. And some of those guys never got it. They never did. Um, but that was actually a big, oh, dude, it was, I mean, some of these guys got belligerent mad. I brought all these tracts with me, and I brought all of these Gideon Bibles in Spanish. I mean, this guy was like losing it. And but to my friend's credit, he never backed down. He wasn't pressured by them. And the reason for that is because he knew the work that he was doing. And now, because he was invested in that community, that was his community. And he was not going to allow them to harm it. That's good work. That's good humanity. That's kingdom of heaven to earth stuff, right? Like, I'm guarding this group of people. Look, I'm here to just talk to you about your financial support. That's it. I got the work. You know, you want to bring some youth groups down in the summer and have them install these in the heat? Great. But that is all I need from you. I don't need anything else. Um, it's just, but I think that the real work, all of that to say, I think the real work of the gospel is hard because it is knowing good community, it is understanding good community, it is investing in good community, and it is knowing that it is just about sacrifice and love. Absolutely. Um, so I still have a very soft place in my heart. Um, Even though that ministry in and of itself, you know, he has his own thing, but even though that ministry itself is kind of, you know, it's still very, you know, a part of that evangelical world. It is one of the only thing in that world that I still support because I've seen the good. I've seen the heart of the gospel there. I've seen the heart of good faith there. And that is what we're called to. And really, this is what Jesus is saying. He's saying, look, it's not going to be butterflies and rainbows. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to do the hard stuff. You're going to have to get your hands dirty and roll your sleeves up. You are going to have to leave some things that you love, and you're going to be left by some things that you love, and you are going to be hurt by some things, and you are going to have to sacrifice, and you are going to have to bleed, and you are going to have to suffer. And but that's what bringing love to the world really is. Because to meet people where they are in their hurt and in their pain, it's not going to be easy. And when you choose that life, you will lose things because of it. Anyway, all right. A little bit more rabbit traily this morning, not as much by the notes today. We also left like half the passage on the table still. So um, we will circle back. I grateful for your time this morning. This was refreshing to my soul. I'll just be honest. Um, I'm thankful that we get to spend this time together. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for your families. I'm grateful for this community and what it means to me and how it invests in me. And I love y'all. And I hope that you're doing well. Um, don't forget midweek, uh, 6 Central, 7 Eastern, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Do one, do both. I'm going to try to pop in this week, actually. I'm going to be, so on Tuesday night, I'm going to be out of town and I'm just going to be bored in my hotel room because there's just like nothing to do on the road, you know? Anyway, so I'll probably pop into midweek on Tuesday myself. But yeah, come be a part of midweek this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, or both Tuesday and Wednesday. Okay. All right. I love y'all. Love God, love people passionately. No strings attached. Love yourself passionately today, too. Okay. All right. I'll see you next week.